4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, midnight in Dublin, 1 a.m. in London and most of Europe. And Anna Blake, please tell us what time it is in Brisbane, Australia. I think it's 9:30 Wednesday morning, but I'm not sure. And it's Facebook Live. And tonight's a special Facebook Live. I've never done this before, and that is we're taking one topic. And that topic is about gluten and how it affects us and answering your questions specifically about that. So if you have family members or close friends who are dealing with a sensitivity to wheat, a sensitivity to gluten, I'd recommend that you send them a quick text or email now and with the link to this Facebook Live so they can join us, because what they learn may literally save their life. Studies are very clear what happens with people who have a wheat-related disorder and they continue to be exposed to wheat. The inflammation continues, which activates whatever your genetic vulnerability is. You know, you pull at a chain, it always breaks at the weakest link. It's at one end, the middle, the other end. It's your heart, your brain, your liver, your kidneys, wherever your weak link is. And what activates the pull on the chain is inflammation. And so if you have a wheat sensitivity and you continue to be exposed to wheat, you get more inflammation because you're throwing gasoline on the fire. And so if the weak link in your chain genetically is you carry the Alzheimer's gene, well, you may have heard me say before, genes don't turn on and off. And just because you have a gene does not mean you're getting that disease. There are a few diseases where that's true, that if you carry that gene, you're likely to manifest that particular disease. There are a few, but the science says the vast majority of diseases are not because you have the gene, it's because the gene gets expressed, it gets turned on. And genes, depending on the paper you read, the language they use can be confusing. Genes don't get turned on and off. There's no on-off switch for genes, as far as I know. Genes are on a dimmer switch, and you can dim the gene down so it doesn't express itself very much, or you can ramp the gene up so that it expresses itself a lot. And the genes that you want to express themselves a lot are the genes of anti-inflammation, younger, healthier cellular regrowth. Remember, you have an entire new body every 7 years. Every cell in your body regenerates. What kind of cells are you regenerating? A disease cell. If you have a disease now, you generate a new cell that's the same, or a more diseased cell, or a less diseased cell. That's determined by what genes get turned on and off. Is there too much inflammation? Then you get more degeneration. If there's less inflammation and more of, for example, the polyphenols, that's a group, I'm sorry for the geek term, that's a group of chemicals in fruits and vegetables that turn up the genes of anti-inflammation. That's why we talk about the rainbow diet. The more you turn up the genes of anti-inflammation, which is done by the colors in the fruits and vegetables you eat, focus on more vegetables, not like a whole lot of fruit. Some fruit is great, but because we have blood sugar problems, eating too much fruit can be a problem. So focus more on vegetables, but it really is fruits and vegetables. The polyphenols are in both. So to be clear about genetics, they don't turn on, your genes don't turn on and off. Even if you carry the breast cancer gene or the Alzheimer's gene, you're not getting breast cancer unless that gene gets ramped up. If that gene gets ramped up and the geek term is expresses itself, then you develop weaker cells, more damaged cells, mutated cells that progress into a breast cancer. If your genes for breast cancer are dimmed down, the dimmer switch is turned down because you've got lots of polyphenols, good, healthy attitude about life, not too many stress hormones being produced. You're not living in a moldy house or sucking in bad air near a freeway. You know, there are so many things you have to learn, but the point is, if your environment around your genes is a more anti-inflammatory environment, you don't express those genes of disease. That is the current line of thinking by the vast majority of experts who are writing about this topic, about genetic vulnerability to disease. There are some diseases that if you carry that gene, you're likely to get it. Cystic fibrosis is one of those diseases. Science hasn't really figured out yet how to calm down that gene from expressing itself. You know, but the vast majority of genes do not have to take over and be dominant. So I guess that's a bit of an introduction here. Marina says, hello from Hawaii. Mary Russo is greetings from sunny Phoenix, Arizona, the Valley of Sun and Sun. Well, really nice, Mary. Thanks for being here. It's 9 a.m. Thursday morning. Anna Blake, it's 9 a.m. Thursday morning in Australia. It's not Wednesday. Oh my goodness. You have just changed my paradigm about time zones. So thank you for that. All right, so let's get to the questions. I'm going to start with question number 1. So confused about what to eat. Really, I fully understand that. So let's lay it out. Some people do really well on a ketogenic diet for a while. You can't live on a ketogenic diet, but for a period of time, 6 months or a year, it can really turn their lives around. Ketogenic diets mean really high fats, good fats, but really high fats and not many carbohydrates at all. Some people, because of how they live their life to this point and how unstable their blood sugar is, they can't eat very many carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are sugar. And when they go to a ketogenic diet, they help to stabilize their blood sugar regulating system. Their brain works better, they've got more clarity, their energy's up, they lose weight. So for some people, ketogenic diet really works well for a period of time. For some people, a paleo diet, like our ancestors ate, works well. And some people live on that for a long period of time. My personal experience as a clinician is that if you're a blood type O, you know, there was this whole thing, eat right for your blood type. It's a whole dynamic of how you're supposed to eat. My experience is it's a good recommendation for blood type O's because blood type O is the oldest blood type on the planet. Our ancient ancestors were blood type O. What does that mean? They followed the herds. They were nomads. They did not do agriculture. So they were always moving and following the herds and putting up their teepees or their tents and following the herds to have food. They ate a lot of meat. So blood type O's do really well having higher percentages of quality protein and not too much carbohydrates at all. Carbohydrates are grains. Vegetables are carbohydrates, but not as high an amount as in grains. And that's breads and lentils and peas and buckwheat and barley and rye. The beans and rices and corn and wheat, barley, rye, oats, those are the dominant carbohydrates that can throw your blood sugar regulating system a little bit haywire. So if we go back and look at this, think about how many soda pops you drank as a kid. Think about how many you had a week and how many weeks in a year, or how many candy bars you ate as a kid. I grew up on Three Musketeers and Mountain Dew. And literally, you know, I was drinking Mountain Dew, not quite every day, but quite often. And it does a number on your body and it wears out many systems of your body, but your blood sugar regulating system gets really, really overworked when you're young and eating the garbage food that we call the standard American diet. The result of that is that for many of us, blood sugar stability is a problem. And so many of us either for the rest of our lives or for a period of time, have to keep in mind that we need to keep our blood sugar stable. Really important to do that. Critically important for all of the different functions in your body. And when you eat sugar, your body has to make insulin to escort the sugar into your cells. Sugar is a primary source of fuel in our cells. And I don't mean the white table sugar. I mean the sugar that's in carbohydrates, the sugar in fruits. The white table sugar is the worst, but there are many different types of sugars that we get in our food. Understand, carbohydrates are sugars. So that means grains are sugars. Beans, rice and beans are sugars. And of course, candy and all of that. But we've thrown our body so far out of balance as children and as teenagers, most of us have, that our blood sugar regulating system gets way out of whack. Now, as we become adults and grow into our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, we start packing on weight. Why do we pack on weight? There's a few reasons why we pack on weight, but the one that's been most dominant through the 90s and the early 2000s, the primary mechanism for so many people, their blood sugar regulation has crashed. They can't handle carbohydrates very much anymore, and they were told that whole wheat bread is good for you. Well, a slice of whole wheat bread, your body makes insulin by the amount of sugar it thinks is in a food. And that relationship between how much insulin you make and how much sugar is in food, that's called your glycemic index. The glycemic index of that food determines how much insulin you make. So if you have a high glycemic index food, like brown rice, pretty high glycemic index food, your body makes more insulin to get the sugars from that brown rice into your cells. You have to make more insulin. Well, the glycemic index of a slice of whole wheat bread is 71. 71. The glycemic index of a Snickers bar, a candy bar, is 48. Your body thinks there's more sugar in a slice of whole wheat bread than in a Snickers candy bar. So somebody's going to say, well, I'll make my peanut butter sandwich in between two Snicker bars. Don't be silly, right? But my point is, a slice of whole wheat bread is a very high glycemic index food. And your body thinks you need to make a lot of insulin because you're eating whole wheat bread. White bread, the glycemic index is 69. Not really much better. You want to be in the mid to low 40s in the vast majority of food that you're eating, the glycemic index of those foods. The goal to help rebuild and stabilize your system is to be in the low to mid 40s or lower than that, if you can. And the more you do that, the less stress you place on your blood sugar regulating system, and people just shed pounds when they do that. They lose a lot of weight. And after a period of time, then you can start experimenting, either eating some higher glycemic index foods to see how your body responds. Now, you should be able to eat those foods fine, but you blew your blood sugar regulating system so far out of balance when you were a kid and a teenager that you have to rebuild that system. And you can't rebuild that system if you keep throwing gasoline on the fire, if you keep eating high glycemic index foods. You can't rebuild that system. So there's a whole world of that to learn about. So this is all about what foods to eat. This is question number one, what foods to eat. So what everyone benefits from, because I start, well, there's keto and there's paleo and there's vegan and there's vegetarian. Everyone benefits from making the vast majority of their diet, their food selections, the rainbow diet. The rainbow diet is the colors of the rainbow and many more. And the goal is the more colors you have in your food every day, and not from artificial food dye, but from red beets and red tomatoes and purple cabbage and green broccoli and yellow squash, butternut squash or spaghetti squash. Make a pasta dinner with spaghetti squash with your favorite spaghetti sauce, and it's really good. It's really good, and your kids will ask for more. And they're really easy to do, you know. But the rainbow diet, the colors of the rainbow, because those polyphenols, that's the geek term for what the colors are. The colors are stress hormones made by the plant to keep bugs away and to keep the plant strong and healthy. So you're getting the stress hormones from tomatoes, unless they're hothouse tomatoes that don't have very many nutrients in them at all. That's why you want organic, because the organic food has the guts in it that gives you the nutrients that you need to fight disease, to help build your immune system stronger. But the rainbow diet, and the goal is 50 different foods from the rainbow diet concept per week. 50. And if you look at what you eat now, you're probably somewhere between 6, maybe 4 to 8 colors a day of fruits and vegetables, maybe. Some people maybe a 2 or 3 because they eat pasta and macaroni and cheese, that's it. You know, who knows? Who knows? But it's not hard over the course of a month or 2 months to double and triple the amount of colors of the rainbow that you're eating with different fruits and vegetables. Our friend Dr. Deanna Minnick published a paper on this, and Mary Agnes will put the link in here for you to that paper about the rainbow diet. And she's got 4 pages in there of different fruits and vegetables, what polyphenols are in them, what colors they are, and what systems of the body they help, like cardiovascular or blood pressure or brain function. So I recommend you print out those pages and put them on your refrigerator with a magnet. And you know, you walk by and say, oh, spaghetti squash. Now I really don't know what that is. So I need to look into that one. And you Google spaghetti squash and you see a YouTube video, how it's a no-brainer to make spaghetti squash. You slice it in half, scoop out the seeds, put a little olive oil on it, face down, and I put a little Italian seasoning in there, and then face down on a baking tray, 350 for an hour, it's done. I mean, it's a no-brainer, you know. But then you've got spaghetti squash, and you take it out, you have to cool a little bit, it'll burn your hand, and then you put the squash in your hand, or you put a towel here, and then you're scooping it out, and it comes out like strings of spaghetti, depending on how you scoop. I'm not a good scooper, so mine breaks in half and stuff, you know, but it tastes delicious, just delicious. And you just experiment every week with one more thing. So in terms of what to eat, always the rainbow diet as your base. I don't care if you're vegan, paleo, I don't care what you are. And from there, quality proteins. The most dangerous thing, in my opinion, for vegetarians and vegans is that they're protein depleted. And the way you know is you do a simple urine test. It's on our website. It's a urine test to look at your amino acids. What do you have for amino acids? Do you have enough? And we constantly, not every time, but constantly see vegetarians and vegans, 90% or more of their amino acids are way over the deficiency range. They don't have enough protein to make new healthy cells because it's really hard to get quality protein. You can do it, but it takes a lot of work and you have to study to learn how to do it. If you're not eating fish or chicken or eggs or beef, quality beef, grass-fed beef. And we hear a lot about red meats cause cancer, and I think there's a lot of truth to that, but the meats that they're doing the studies on are what you buy at the local supermarket that's really crap meat, excuse me, but these cows are fed corn. No cows eat corn in the wild. They eat grass. That's what gives them One of the things it gives them is called conjugated linoleic acid, CLA. And CLA, conjugated linoleic, here's a pearl, you want to lose some weight, take 1 capsule of conjugated linoleic acid a day, and you lose about 1 pound a month without counting calories, doing anything else, because it's good fat and it helps your body to burn off the bad fats. And beef, grass-fed beef, is full of conjugated linoleic acid. Store-bought beef from pen-raised, corn-fed beef has very, very little, almost no conjugated linoleic acid. It's a different food. Don't eat those mass-produced garbage foods. Stay away from lunch meats and all of that. So that's an overview about what foods to eat. Always, always, the rainbow is the basis of whatever diet you choose to do. Do we plan to sell this on full scripts, and how does this compare to Glutenza? Okay, I think they're referring to E3 Advanced Plus and Wheat Rescue. I don't know about full script. I don't deal with that. Our team does. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe Mary Agnes can find out during the hour, but that's a good question. E3 Advanced Plus and Glutenza is the same thing. It's the exact same product. I created that product 11 years ago, and the company that I worked with to create the product, he said, Doc, not everybody knows what E3 Advanced Plus means, but we wanted to use that name because there's 3 different digestive enzymes in there, plus a bunch of other things, E3 Advanced Plus. So he said, do you mind if we put it under our label and call it Glutenza, so people know it's for gluten? I said, no, fine, go ahead. So Glutenza is the same thing as E3 Advanced Plus. Do Wheat Rescue and E3 Advanced Plus protects against all grain glutens or specific glutens only? Really good question. And I'll talk about the difference between the two in a couple of minutes. But Wheat Rescue has been shown to digest all of the proteins that it's checked for in wheat and rye and barley. But they've not tested it against the gluten proteins of rice or the gluten proteins of corn. But these, so I can't answer that question for you. But these enzymes deal with the top 8 food allergens, and it's 95 to 99% full digestion of the top 8 allergens: wheat, dairy, soy, corn, fish, shellfish, and I'm not remembering what the other ones are right now. So my assumption is that they certainly will help. I can guarantee they're going to help digest any grains that you're consuming. And gluten is a family of proteins in many different grains. Gluten's not bad for you. Bad gluten is bad for you. And that's in wheat, rye, and barley. Now, you may be allergic to rice, and you may be allergic to the gluten proteins in rice, but that's, well, you could be allergic to tomatoes, so some people are. But my assumption is that both Wheat Rescue and E3 Advanced Plus will deal with the gluten proteins in other grains. But I haven't seen, well, they have done it for corn and they have done it for soy. So yes, it will for those, but I don't know about quinoa, amaranth, rice. I've not seen the tests on that, so I can't tell you. Given that most, if not all of our country, of our wheat in this country is GMO, would it be advisable for everyone to avoid it? That's a really good question. That's a good observation, because GMO, we know, it destroys your microbiome, the good bacteria in your gut. It's called the shikimate pathway, where the good bacteria reproduce, and glyphosate inhibits the shikimate pathway, which means you lose the good bacteria in your gut. So staying away from GMO foods in general is a great idea. Now, I never say everyone needs to give up wheat, because if I did, I'd sound like a nutcase, right? And there's no evidence for that. But everyone that has a health concern needs to check accurately to see if their immune system says they have a problem with wheat. And if your immune system says you have a problem with wheat, then you have to give it up. So we'll put the link in here for that test. It's called the Wheat Zoomer, because you zoom in on the problem. Everyone should do that test if you've got a health concern of any type whatsoever, because wheat problems can cause inflammation anywhere in your body, anywhere. The idea that it's in the gut is a historical misconception. I love that term, because the science tells us for every one person that has gut symptoms with a problem with wheat, there are 8 that don't. They've got brain symptoms, joint symptoms, skin symptoms, kidney symptoms, depression, anxiety. They don't have gut pain. So if you think you have to have gut pain for wheat to be a problem, you're going to miss the boat 8 out of 9 times. So if you have a health concern, whatever it is, do the Wheat Zoomer just to make sure you're not missing a major cause of problem for so many people. Hi, I already take digestive enzymes. Will Wheat Rescue replace it or need to be used in conjunction with it? Also, will this help to digest our food sensitivities? Yes, on the food sensitivities, Shanquil. Yes, it will. Wheat Rescue and E3 Advanced Plus, well, E3 Advanced Plus does not have any pancreatic enzymes in it. Wheat Rescue does. Wheat Rescue has lipase in it, which helps to digest fats. So it's going to help do a more comprehensive digestive protocol for you. E3 Advanced Plus will not deal with pancreatic enzymes. So it will not completely replace your digestive enzyme. Wheat Rescue also has hydrochloric acid in it, so it is a more complete digestive enzyme than E3 Advances. My grandson's 13 and gluten sensitive. Can he take these products? Absolutely, absolutely. And very important to take these products. Anytime he eats anything that he's not positive is gluten-free, meaning if grandma is not making it and her kitchen is squeaky clean, there's no contamination, anytime he eats, he should take a Wheat Rescue or an E3 Advanced Plus. Because if there's a sauce on the food, if there's salad dressing that's commercial salad dressing, if there are spices that are used that you're not sure they're gluten-free spices, you always take a Wheat Rescue or E3 Advanced Plus to protect yourself. Now, I'll take 2 if I'm eating a bowl of pasta, because some of you have heard that 51.9% of gluten-free pasta is not gluten-free. It's on the menu, it says it's gluten-free, but when they test it, it's not. So if I'm gonna eat a bowl of pasta, because I love that pasta feeling, and I don't get it much anymore, so I love it when I do it, I'm gonna take one before, and I'm gonna take one during the middle, because there's a lot of pasta there, right? There's a lot of grain. So I wanna make sure that I don't miss anything. How does this differ from Wheat Rescue from Microbiome Labs? The same product. I use Microbiome Labs to distribute the Wheat Rescue product. Oh, we've got a treat here. We're going to take time out here for a minute. Oh my goodness. Yes, so let me lower the questions, get them out of the way for a moment here so that I can do a little more full screen here. And we have a guest, a very special guest. There we go. We got little boy. Yes, look here. This is my wife, Marzi.
Hi, everybody.
And Gio. Gio turned 6 months old last week, and we're here in San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica, to see the pediatrician for his 6-month visit. Yes. And he's looking at himself in the mirror or on the screen here.
It's Gio, Daddy.
Yes.
And he's very tired.
And he's saying hello. Yes. Yes.
Night, night, everybody.
Okay.
Night, night.
Night, night. Night, night, everybody. Night, night. Thank you. That's really nice. Okay, that's a nice break in the action. Back to work now. Let's see here. Where's the questions? Here we go. How will this help me if I'm not sensing a gluten problem? You don't sense a gluten problem. The lucky ones do, but most people don't know. They don't know. Because, I mean, if you've got acne really bad or psoriasis and it's there all the time, you don't know that it may be wheat that's fueling that thing, primarily fueling it. You can't tell. Most people don't feel bad when they eat wheat. The lucky ones, oh, doc, if I eat wheat, you know, my stomach's all bloated and I feel lousy. Oh, good, good. So if you keep eating, it's up to you. You know, I've done my job. You now understand, right? But most people don't sense that they have a gluten problem. That's why the rule of thumb, you have a health concern. I don't care what the health concern is. It's not getting better the way you want it to. You do the wheat zoomer just to find out, do I have a problem with wheat that may be contributing to my problem? Okay. I try to always eat gluten-free, but sometimes it can't be helped and I get terrible bloat that takes weeks to go away. That's correct, because you've got weeks, actually a few months of elevated antibodies once you activate that whole defensive mechanism. And the danger is not that, you know, you feel a little bloated or, I can deal with that. But the danger is that when you make antibodies to wheat, the vast majority of people also make antibodies to their own tissue. It might be their brain, it might be their heart, it might be their skin. That is the mechanism in the development of autoimmune diseases. So when you have weeks of not feeling good, it's because your autoimmune mechanism has kicked in. You don't feel elevated antibodies to wheat. There's no symptom with that. You feel elevated antibodies to your thyroid. You feel elevated antibodies to your brain because you're in brain fog. There's more inflammation in your brain and you're in brain fog. That's why when you have an exposure to wheat that turns back on your immune system to protect you from wheat, because you do the wheat zoomer, you do squeaky clean, you follow our guidelines, and you do the test again 6 months later, your wheat zoomer should be much better or normal. Much, much better or normal. And if it's okay, doc, can I eat wheat now? Well, no, not really, because the antibodies will come right back. But sometimes people need to go through all of that before they'll believe it. So we just did the test. You're normal now. Way to go. You worked hard. Way to go. Now go out and party, have pizza, do whatever you want. And next month, do the test again. And if the antibodies come back, then well, I guess I can't do that, because the antibodies won't come back just to wheat. The antibodies will come back to the weak link in your chain. Remember how we started this whole session today? To the weak link in your chain. Whatever the weak link in your chain is, your brain, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your thyroid, your skin, your bones, your joints, it doesn't matter. Elevated antibodies to wheat, the danger is whatever your genetic vulnerability is, the weak link in your chain, that's where the inflammation is going to manifest itself. So when you feel lousy for weeks, that means if you have antibodies to your brain, you got more antibodies to your brain, or to your joints, you're killing off more cells in your joints, whatever it should be. Okay, I feel terrible. I get terrible bloat that takes weeks to go away. Will your product eliminate this problem if I take one capsule after eating gluten? Or do you have to take your product every day? Oh, no, you don't have to take the product every day. There is a rebuilding benefit to taking it with each meal. Marzi and I don't, because we now, we're squeaky clean and we know, but we just had lunch catered in today, and it was a Thai chicken salad on arugula, and the salad dressing, the restaurant says, yeah, gluten-free, but the salad dressing is really dark colored. And that just bothers me. Like, did they put soy sauce in there? So I took a Wheat Rescue today, and I'm fine. I feel fine. But we don't take them with every meal at home anymore, but we take them when we eat food that's catered in, or if we're in a restaurant. So the purpose of these products are not like a daily multivitamin. Although they do build a stronger immune system in your gut, they help to rebuild your microbiota. They've got ingredients in there that do that. That's not the primary purpose. The primary purpose is to protect you from what's on the end of your fork, you know, so that if you're putting something down there, you've got the enzymes down there to protect you. So whenever you are not positive that everything you're eating is gluten-free, that's when you take the enzymes. Dr. Perlmutter talked to a doctor that says it's not gluten, but wheat that's the problem. Your thoughts? Well, he's being misquoted. It is gluten, and it's the amylase trypsin inhibitors in wheat, and it's the FODMAPs in wheat, and it's the gluteomorphins in wheat. It's not just gluten. That we've all believed it was gluten. That's how we cut our teeth, because it's the gluten proteins that trigger the development of celiac disease. But other proteins in wheat are just as bad a problem, if not worse. One of them is called the amylase trypsin inhibitors. That's what it is in a wheat plant. If a bug starts to eat the wheat plant, the amylase trypsin inhibitors cause holes in the bug's gut and the bug dies. That's the ATIs, the amylase trypsin inhibitors. And amylase trypsin inhibitors in nanomolar amounts will activate leaky gut in humans. A nanomolar is a billionth of a gram. A billionth of a gram will activate leaky gut in humans. So what Dr. Perlmutter is referring to is amylase trypsin inhibitors, FODMAPs, gluteomorphins, all of the other components in wheat, not just gluten. Yes, rice has gluten, but it's not the toxic gluten. But you know, people can be sensitive to rice or tomatoes or cucumbers or anything else. Oh, the thing about rice that you might want to know, 3 of 5 Japanese restaurants, when I went into them and we placed an order, I said to the waiter or waitress, please ask the chef if there's any wheat in the rice. And the waitress looked at me, oh, no, sir, it's rice, no wheat, no wheat. I said, I understand, please ask the chef. Oh, no, sir, no, ask the chef. And they, okay, yes, sir. And you know, sometimes you have to like get them out of their, they know what's best mode. And 3 out of 5 times they came back and say, oh, so sorry, so sorry. Chef puts a scoop of flour in the sushi rice when he cooks it to make it stickier. So you think you're safe eating rice, but some chefs, I took my sister to J. Alexander's. It's a national chain restaurant, a little kind of upscale national chain restaurant. And she ordered salmon, broiled salmon. I said, how does that come? Oh, sir, it comes with a little bit of spice on it and some rice and sauteed vegetables. So, oh, great, great. Please tell the chef that we're gluten-free. Oh, no, sir, there's no gluten in that. Please tell the chef we're gluten. Oh, so tell the chef. I mean, I had to do that twice. You know, I don't want to be an annoyance, but I'm not going to let some guy think he knows better, and then I get contaminated and have weeks of suffering with elevated antibodies to my brain because I want to be a nice guy and I don't want to offend my waiter, right? You have to stand up for yourself. And the guy came back and said, oh, I'm sorry, sir, I didn't know. Chef puts a scoop of flour in the rice to make it a little stickier. So chefs around the country are doing that now sometimes. So you think rice is safe, but you just have to make sure it's safe. You have to ask and take a wheat rescue or E3 with it. Millet is a grain. No, yeah, I think it is. And it's naturally gluten-free, but it can be contaminated. Anytime you eat grains of any type, you have to take a wheat rescue. Listen, in the American Journal of Gastroenterology in 2019, March of 2019, Peter Green and Benjamin Lebwohl and their team at Columbia University, who's are very famous gastroenterologists. At Columbia University, they took 804 people, they gave them testing equipment, and they sent them out into the world to go to gluten-free restaurants and to order off gluten-free menus. So they'd sit down, and each of these 804 people were told to order 7 different things. And they were given enough equipment, cartridges, to do 7 tests. So 7 times 804 is 5,624 tests. So 5,624 items on gluten-free menus were ordered. When the waiter or waitress walked away from the table, they opened their briefcase and put out the testing equipment on the table. When the waiter or waitress came back with the food, they immediately took the food, put it in the testing equipment. Is there any gluten in here? 5,624 items ordered off of gluten-free menus. 32% of everything on a gluten-free menu is not gluten-free. 32%, 1/3 of everything is not gluten-free. 54% of gluten-free pasta is not gluten-free. 51% of gluten-free pizza is not gluten-free. And I love gluten-free pizza. I'm half Italian, right? And I love it once in a while. I love the feeling of pasta once in a while. But it's not safe. You think you're safe because you're going to a gluten-free restaurant and it's on the menu with the little thing that says gluten-free. You're not safe. And it's unfortunate, but that's the status. Now we can complain about it, but I suggest you get Wheat Rescue or E3, and you've got it in your purse, you got it in the glove box of your car for the guys, and you go in the restaurant and you order and say, oh, I forgot the Wheat Rescue, it's in the car. Oh, I'll get it next time. No, you get up and walk out to the car and get it and come back. You need to protect yourself because you'll have weeks of elevated antibodies to wherever the weak link in your chain is. That's the major concern about being exposed to nanograms of wheat. That's all it takes is nanograms, 1,000th of a gram. Okay, what's the best way to test for gluten sensitivity? The wheat Zoomer. There's nothing like it anywhere. I travel all over the world. I'm on stage all over the world. And before I go on stage, I go down to the vendors area where the doctors see all the vendors of the different laboratories and companies and things. And I look at all the laboratories and I look at what they're offering. This is the best test in the world, hands down. Okay, what if I already take digestive enzymes and they help? That's great, but the problem with digestive enzymes, they can't break down the gluten proteins before the protein comes out of the stomach. And that's within 90 minutes to 2 hours. It comes out of the stomach. That digestive enzymes and the gluten digestive enzymes, a study was done endorsed by the Danish government of the top 5 gluten digesting enzymes. None of them work to stop the activation of inflammation in your small intestine or to stop the activation of leaky gut in your small intestine. None of them. They all worked in the large intestine, but they did not work in the small intestine. Why? They don't work in the stomach. And when food comes out of the stomach into the small intestine, that's where the sentries are standing guard to protect you from a bug. And unfortunately, gluten is misinterpreted as the harmful component of a microorganism, of a bug. So your immune system turns on defenses, kill the bug. Kill the bug. That's what inflammation does. Kill the bug, kill the bug. And it turns on the defenses, wash this bug out of here. That's what leaky gut is. Water comes into the intestines to wash out the threat, whatever it should be. So your digestive enzymes may help with bloating. They may help with pancreatic digestive enzyme function and all that, which is great, but they will not digest gluten. That's why you need to include Wheat Rescue or E3 with your digestive enzymes. If we test positive for wheat sensitivity, is it possible to heal the gut and be able to eat small amounts? It's mandatory to heal the gut, but eat small amounts of wheat? No. No, and the rule is you can't be a little pregnant, you can't have a little wheat. Why? When you get a vaccination for measles or yellow fever or dengue fever, not these current vaccinations, because nobody knows how these work. They've not been tested in humans before, and we don't know what the side effects are going to be. Not going to get into politics, but that's just the facts. They've not been tested in humans. But the other vaccinations for years, that you go into Africa, you need a vaccination for dengue fever, yellow fever, all these weird diseases. So they give you an injection of the bug, yellow fever, dengue fever. Your brain says, what's that in the bloodstream? I better fight that. General, You now are general yellow fever. Take care of this. General yellow fever builds an assembly line. The assembly line starts producing soldiers trained to go after yellow fever. They're called antibodies. And these antibodies are special forces. It takes a few weeks to build the assembly line. But now you've got special forces in the bloodstream looking for yellow fever. And wherever they see yellow fever, they fire their chemical bullet that destroys the bug that you got in the vaccination. That's how vaccinations work. Then it takes a few months. Then your assembly line is up and running. Then when General Yellow Fever sees that all the bugs from the vaccination have been destroyed, he says, okay, turn off the assembly line. We don't need any more soldiers right now. You shouldn't have yellow fever antibodies in your bloodstream right now if you had a vaccination for yellow fever before you went to Africa years ago. But General Yellow Fever is vigilant the rest of his life. His job, if you're ever exposed to yellow fever, you're sitting on an airplane going from New York to LA, and the guy behind you is just coming from Mozambique, and he coughs and he's carrying yellow fever. You inhale yellow fever, you just got exposed to yellow fever. General Yellow Fever is vigilant the rest of his life if you're ever exposed. He just has to flip the switch. He doesn't have to build the assembly line, it's already built. He just has to flip the switch, and in 2 days, you've got antibodies to yellow fever in your bloodstream going after whatever you just inhaled before yellow fever has a chance to reproduce and take hold and cause a problem for you. That's the whole concept of vaccinations. Once again, not these current vaccinations. We don't know how they work. Wheat, when you make antibodies to wheat, you produce general wheat or general gluten or general amylase trypsin inhibitors or general gluteomorphins. You've got these generals, and general yellow fever, general gluten is called a memory B cell. They got a memory. General yellow fever, he's his job for the rest of his life. Yellow fever, nobody gets in. Yellow fever, we'll take care of it. General wheat, memory B cells for wheat, the rest of your life, no gluten gets in here, no amylase trypsin gets in here. So when you get exposed down the road, now right now you have no more antibodies because you've been squeaky clean for 6 months, no cheating, you've been taking the enzymes to protect yourself from inadvertent exposures, you redo the wheat zoomer, you're good. Well, Doc, can I eat wheat now? No, because of general gluten. No, you can't, because you're going to get, and it takes a nanomolar amount to activate that whole inflammatory cascade to begin again, a nanomolar amount. So, but people don't like to hear this. So I always tell them, all right, well, you know, if you don't want to believe this, let's just be smart about what you do, right? Because you can't eat a piece of pizza and say, well, I feel fine the next day and think it's okay to do it once in a while. No, 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 no. You eat a piece of pizza, you feel fine, okay, but do it for 4 or 5 days, you know, have wheat 3, 4, 5 days in a row, then do the wheat zoomer again and see what your test shows you. And you're going to see the antibodies have come right back. And I've only had 3 people go through 3 tests, you know, the first test, the follow-up test, and then a follow-up because they challenged themselves again. I've only had 3 people do it because they just don't want to spend the money. But all 3 of them, their jaw dropped when they saw that the antibodies were back, and the antibodies to their brain were back, or to their thyroid, or to their skin, whatever their weak link in their chain was. And that's the danger, is it's called molecular mimicry. That's the danger, is the molecular mimicry and the autoimmune mechanisms that get turned back on again when you start making gluten antibodies again. What if I already tell, okay? Are there better types of rice to eat than others? Brown versus white versus jasmine basmati? Really good question, Kim, really good question. And for me, the I like white rice. I don't like brown rice. It's healthier for you. Yeah, it is. But I'll get my nutrients from other foods, or I'll have a little brown rice once in a while. Because all right, I guess I'll be healthy today. But I like jasmine. I like jasmine rice. But the criteria to determine, can I eat rice? Which rices should I eat? First, you have a sensitivity to rice, and I don't think it's that common. I don't know the numbers on rice sensitivity, but if you don't have a sensitivity to rice, then the major concern is the glycemic index of the rice that you're eating. There's a difference between arborio and jasmine and basmati. And you have to look it up. I don't have that memorized. Um, because the glycemic index, how much sugar your body thinks is in the rice, and you're eating a high glycemic index rice, you're taxing your blood sugar regulating system, and you head in the direction of insulin resistance. And and we'll do a session on sugar and insulin resistance and arresting diabetes. And if you're pre-diabetic, or if your doctor told you you got the sugar, well, then what do you do about all that? We'll do a session on that, and we'll accumulate a bunch of questions like this so that I can just download to you guys. So that's the criteria I use to determine about rice with our patients: is choose a low glycemic index rice. Marina says hello from Hawaii. Oh, thank you, Marina. Aloha. And Lucia says hello from Tucson. Anna Blake says, oops, it's Wednesday, not Thursday. Oh, thank you, Anna. I just gave you a day. Great. Great. Is there a list of gluten-free foods you recommend? I feel some gluten-free foods are not as good as others. Oh yeah, we've got great recipes in both of my books, in the Autoimmune Fix and You Can Fix Your Brain. As a matter of fact, in You Can Fix Your Brain, I reached out to, I think it was 20, maybe about, of my friends in the health industry. And I said, listen, you want to be in my book? Send me a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner that's gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, that kids like, and it's easy to make. Send me your best, and I'll put you in the book, and I'll give you an acknowledgement in the book. So we've got all these great recipes in the book of gluten-free foods. So I would suggest you check out You Can Fix Your Brain for that. Will taking the Wheat Rescue be too much for me if I already take digestive enzymes? No, absolutely not. No danger whatsoever. If we have leaky gut, do we need to take digestive enzymes with most meals if we feel fine? Yeah. You want to, it depends on whether you have digestive dysfunction. Now, I didn't say digestive symptoms or digestive issues, but digestive dysfunction. The only way you know you have dysfunction really is to do the test. I mean, if you get symptoms, it's obvious. But if you do stool analysis and you look for, are your fibers, the meat fibers digested? What's the pH? What's the environment like? The pancreatic enzymes you're producing, elastase, are you producing enough? What's your immune system like? Those are the markers by which to determine if outside of bloating and gas and constipation and diarrhea, gut symptoms, you have gut symptoms, yeah, you need digestive enzymes. If you don't have gut symptoms, what does the stool analysis tell us about your current functional capabilities? RE antibiotics. I'm assuming the same logic applies to anything to which a person produces antibodies. I'm not sure what you mean by the same logic, but the danger of wheat and other food antibodies, but wheat's the primary one where so much research has been done, is molecular mimicry. So when General Wheat builds the assembly line, trains the soldiers, get out there and look for wheat in the bloodstream or gluten in the bloodstream, they're looking for, I call it the orange vest. So they're looking for molecules that have an orange vest, that's gluten. And it's an amino acid protein structure. And they only fire their chemical bullets at orange vests. Well, it just so happens that the tissue of your thyroid facing the bloodstream is made up of proteins. Proteins are hundreds of amino acids long, but in that chain of proteins in the thyroid, it includes the 13 or the 19 amino acid orange vest of gluten. That's why you make antibodies to gluten, the weak link in your chain, your thyroid, you start making antibodies to your thyroid. You make antibodies to gluten, the weak link in your chain is to the cerebellum in your brain, you start making antibodies to your cerebellum. In my practice, I did a very comprehensive blood test, and 316 people between 1998 and 1997 and 1998, 316 consecutive patients between 2 years old and 90 years old. If they were my patient, they got this blood test. If they didn't want to do this blood test, they weren't my patient. And I'm sorry, I'm doing research right now, but here's the name of 2 other doctors that are really great and can probably help you with your problem. Okay, I'll do the test. Great, because 68% of everything that came into my practice, 68% of everything, didn't matter what their complaints were, they had elevated antibodies to gluten, 68%. Now it's much higher because we have more comprehensive tests. If they had elevated antibodies to gluten, 26% of them had elevated antibodies to the cerebellum in their brain. That's the area that controls muscle movement. How many 70-year-olds do you know that can dance up and down the stairs? They can't control their muscle movement very well anymore. It's their brain that's deteriorating, not the muscles in their legs. So 26% of everyone with a sensitivity to gluten had elevated antibodies to cerebellum. 22% of everybody with elevated antibodies to gluten had elevated antibodies to myelin basic protein. That's the saran wrap around your nerves that causes MS and numbness and tingling. So about 1/5 of everybody with elevated antibodies to wheat have elevated antibodies to their brain. That's not, I didn't even check them for their thyroid or their joints or their skin or their hair or their liver or their kidneys. When you have elevated antibodies to wheat, the danger is the autoimmune mechanism that gets turned on, and you start making antibodies, elevated levels of antibodies to the weak link in your chain, wherever that is. And we have tests for that, so we can find out where's your body attacking itself now. That test is array number 5. The autoimmune screen, and I don't remember the name, the long name of that test, but we'll put the link in here to Cyrex array number 5, and you can read about that test. So people do the wheat zoomer and they do Cyrex array number 5, and I also have them do the neural zoomer plus, because the brain problems are so rampant now. I want to know if you have elevated antibodies in your brain right now, so we also address that. You do those 3 tests, and now you've got a picture of what's going on in your body and where you're going to go down most likely if this degenerative process continues. So the power in this knowledge, doing these tests, oh my God, I don't want this to happen. What do I do? And then you become compliant with what you have to do to get this thing turned around. And you have to understand that when your health is going down, there's nothing, no pill, no drug, no diet that's going to do this and send your health back up to peak performance levels. When your health is going down, you have to taper it, slow it down, plateau out, and then start bringing it up. So it's going to take you 6 months to 2 years, depending on how bad your tests are. But don't even spend the money unless you understand this is a game plan that you need so that you can arrest. That's the language that the researchers use, and I love it. Arrest the development of autoimmune disease. I love it because that's exactly what you do. You stop it, you arrest it, and then you rebuild healthier cells and you become younger and healthier. That's the goal of all of this work that we do. That's the goal. in both of my books is to understand these mechanisms of the development of autoimmune diseases. Alzheimer's is an autoimmune disease, Parkinson's, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, they're autoimmune diseases. And this is the mechanism that sets it off, is this inflammation, which is pulling on the chain wherever your weak link is, and that's what Cyrex Ray number 5 identifies where your weak link is. And so it's the inflammation pulling on the chain, and you get elevated antibodies at your weak link, killing off tissue, killing off tissue, killing off tissue. This is like post-PhD stuff. And I'm saying it in everyday language, but you read my books and you understand that there's no question in your mind of what you need to do to get healthy again. There's no question. It just makes sense. There may be more things that you have to do because I'm not all-knowing. You know, there may be more, but there's no question. This is the mechanism in the development of autoimmune diseases. No question on that. Okay. Okay, let's see. What's the youngest age someone can take your protective digestive enzymes? When they can swallow them. Are there any reliable companies we can trust re gluten-free? No. They all want to be gluten-free, but they don't test every batch of everything they make. And one of the truckloads of raw ingredients, they may not test it. The result is contaminated. So, hey, 98.7% of everything we produce is gluten-free. Yeah, well, what about the 1.3%? You know, I don't know. I'm not going to take the risk because it takes nanograms of wheat to activate the whole inflammatory cascade, to turn on general gluten. And then you've got months of elevated antibodies once it gets turned on. Okay, most of us have tried gluten-free breads, pastas, and pizzas. This is about prepared gluten-free foods like breads and stuff. I know, I like them. I really like them. We found a really great bread here at the farmer's market. There's a bakery here in San Jose. Every time we come in, we buy 6 loaves of this bread and we freeze it. And it's really great. It's tasty. But every time, for breakfast this morning, I sliced 4 slices of bread. And the condo we're staying in here doesn't have a toaster. So I took a frying pan, put some ghee in there at a medium heat, just put the bread, 4 slices of bread in there in the ghee. I'm toasting it. And I sauteed 4 eggs. I fried 4 eggs. And Marzi likes hers broken. Or no, I like mine broken. She likes hers sunny side up. And then we put some mayo. I like passion fruit mayo, and Marzi likes cilantro mayo. And so I lathered that on the bread, put the egg on it, and put a slice of avocado on top of that. That was breakfast. But we both took an enzyme before we ate the bread. You just have to be safe. You know, you have to protect yourself. There's no way to be confident out there when 32% of everything in gluten-free menus has got toxic levels of gluten. 32% of everything. Do we have to take WheatRescue and E3 together at all times? And does this duo replace digestive enzymes and HCl combined? No, you don't have to take them together. Absolutely not. I do. You know, sometimes I'll do, if I'm doing a bowl of pasta, I'll do one of each, or I'll take 2 WheatRescue. But sometimes I'll do one of each. Just depends. I don't have a rationale as to when. It's just how I feel about it. But they do a little bit of different things. They both digest the wheat proteins. They both, before it comes out of the stomach. So they're both to be used for that. WheatRescue also has a little hydrochloric acid and little lipase pancreatic enzymes to be a more comprehensive digestive enzyme. E3 Advanced Plus has bacteriophages, which kill bad bacteria in your gut. So if you have gut symptoms, E3 is probably a better idea for you, because that's assuming you've got small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or dysbiosis, too many bad bacteria in your gut. And the bacteriophages in E3 Advanced Plus will go after those, which is a great idea. They both have Saccharomyces probiotics in them, which kill yeast. You have increased candida, they both will take care of that. So it's a major difference is if you got gut symptoms, E3 is probably a little better for you because it's got the bacteriophages. And if you have, if you want more comprehensive digestive enzyme, Wheat Rescue is probably a little better for you, but they're both great. You know, it's like if you have a headache, do you take an aspirin or Tylenol or Advil? You know, which one do you take? Well, they all work, right? So it just depends on which one works better for you. And you can try them both. I'd recommend you try them both. You can't go wrong. I had an accidental gluten exposure after over 10 months clean on a very restrictive diet to try and find out what's going on with my health. It's been a long 16 months trying to find the issue. Will this exposure do a great deal of harm? Most likely not, Rosemary, but it'll give you a couple of months of increased inflammation if you had crossed the line of gluten tolerance and you were positive for gluten sensitivity. So you'll have a couple of months of increased inflammation. So we have a whole, my team, our clinical services team has a whole protocol that you do and how to prepare yourself for inadvertent exposures. And if you get hit with something and you forgot your enzymes or you're out of enzymes or you were at somebody's house for Christmas and you didn't have your enzymes or whatever it should be, there's a whole protocol when you've been exposed of what to do. And it's not a 2-minute thing that I can tell you. You know, our team just walks you through all the steps of that. Is real sourdough bread really gluten-free? No, of course not. And anybody that says that is not reading the science. Sourdough, the fermentation process can help reduce some of the toxicity of wheat, but it doesn't eliminate it. One exception, one study only that I've ever found. If you ferment your dough, make sourdough with 6 different strains of Lactobacillus san franciscus, and there were 6 different strains that they used, that product, celiacs ate it and it didn't activate an immune response. Dropped my jaw when I heard that, or I read the study. Whoa, but that's not commercially feasible. But that was research. But that shows them that it's possible, and I know they're working on it, and we'll see what happens in the future. So that's the exception to the rule. You can't do sourdough. You know, some go, oh, you know, if you do sourdough, it breaks down all the gluten. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And, you know, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but, you know, I will because it's your life. 1 capsule will deal with up to 10 grams of gluten. That's a slice of whole wheat bread. I never, ever recommend that people, well, I'll just eat whole wheat bread now and I'll take the capsules. I don't recommend that because we don't know all the science yet. You know, we don't know if it's taking care of everything or not. It digests the proteins, but we don't know what other problems there would be. So if you think like that and you're going to do that, I would first recommend you do Cyrex array number 5, find out what autoimmune antibodies you've got, go squeaky clean, follow our protocols to get those autoimmune antibodies down to normal, thyroid, brain, joints, whatever, rheumatoid, whatever it should be, get those down to normal, takes 6 months to 2 years. And when those autoimmune antibodies are down to normal, now go eat your sourdough and take a wheat rescue and see what happens to your antibodies to your brain. Do they come back again? That's the only way that you can know if it's okay to do that or not. I don't think it is, but we've never, you know, run the experiments on that to see. Would you recommend any vegan digestive enzymes, please? I'm sorry, I just don't know. Not my area of expertise. When you're dealing with gluten, the only digestive enzymes on the market that are safe are these. These are the only ones. Eliminated just about everything. Followed Dr. Axe's ancient remedies. Finally, as quickly as it came on, it was gone. Suggestions moving forward. Digestive enzymes every meal. Gluten blocker. I don't know what gluten blocker is, but there's no enzymes out there that work within 60 minutes except ours that I know of. There may be some that I just don't know about, Mary. Congratulations on your symptoms eliminating. My recommendation to you would be do the Wheat Zoomer and the Neural Zoomer Plus and maybe Cyrex array number 5. Find out what your current status is and then move forward from there. Every test that's ordered at theDr.com comes with a 15-minute consultation, meaning what this test means. It doesn't, now it's not going to be an hour-long consultation to tell you all the things that you can do, but rather, well, this says you have elevated gluteomorphins. Now, gluteomorphins are the ones that activate the opiate receptors in your brain. So that means that as you go gluten-free, you probably will have a little tougher time because there's an addictive quality to the gluteomorphins that you probably have. So probably better for you to taper down slowly. They'll tell you something like that, but they're not going to go into long detail in a test interpretation, but you'll get a basic idea of what these tests mean. Okay, you've been on a deep dive class on this, a two-part. Yes, MA, yes, absolutely. Please explain the difference between yeast in wheat rescue, Ezekiel bread, nutritional yeast, other traditional refined flour breads. Oh, just like there are thousands of different types of bacteria, there are, I don't know, thousands, hundreds of different types of yeast. And the Saccharomyces family of yeast in these enzymes are good guys. They don't live in the digestive tract. They won't stay there. The studies I read from France said they have a lifespan of about 2 weeks. I don't know if it's more than that, but at least a lifespan of 2 weeks. And they compete and get rid of the yeast and fungus that's growing in your gut. You know, some people have candida overgrowth, yeast overgrowth. You see they've got a white coating on their tongue or a little vaginal discharge at times, suggestive of a yeast overgrowth. And these yeasts in these two products are good guy yeasts that compete and get rid of the bad guy yeast. How long with eating no gluten to heal? Is it different for each person? Yes, it's always different with each individual. But heal from what is really the question. But when you have elevated antibodies to wheat, it's going to take at least 3 to 4 months before all of that calms down. Now, when it calms down, then the healing process really begins, because it's really hard to heal a leaky gut when you still have an inflamed intestine. You have too much of the bad bacteria in your gut that's causing inflammation in your gut. Inflamed. I mean, it's really, really difficult. So in general, think 6 months to 2 years, in general. What is the connection between the amount of sugar and gluten, which is where you began? I was using the sugar analogy because grains, carbohydrates are sugars. And arguably the #1 problem in our world today is obesity and type 2 diabetes. It's killing more people at earlier ages, making them dysfunctional. More of our children are obese than ever before in history. And there's, I think it was about 12 years ago, a new form of diabetes was identified called type 3 diabetes. Type 1 is the autoimmune disease. Diabetes. Type 2 is developed over time from too much sugar and bad insulin utilization. Type 3 looks like Alzheimer's. That the sugar problems you have over the years with type 1 and type 2 kill off brain cells, kill off brain cells, kill off brain cells. Now you have type 3. And you've got the symptoms of a brain that's been losing brain cells for a long time. So that's the connection in terms of carbohydrates. That's how I started this episode tonight with that. Why don't healthcare practitioners talk about the other forms of gluten and grains instead of focusing on gliadin? It's only since going completely grain-free that my health is really starting to improve. Gwendolyn, I'll hire you to be a representative to enroll doctors in our certified gluten-free practitioner course. Why don't they know? Because they don't read the studies. They don't have time to read the studies. And in my course, which by the way, I mentioned earlier, I'm doing this live in Lisbon in October. It's also going to be live stream. So people can do it live stream and, in their home and watch it there. And you don't have to be a healthcare practitioner to do the CGP course. Anyone can take it. You want to learn about gluten, you really want to learn about these complications, this is the most scientific, referenced educational program practitioners can get anywhere. And I'm always using everyday language. You pull at a chain, it breaks at the weakest, all that kind of stuff. Because I'm teaching the doctors, because so many of them don't quite understand some of the technical concepts. They're brilliant at what they do, but some of this is Greek to them. So I'm always using analogies. Hi, Dr. Tom. I'm a great fan of you here from Denmark. Thank you. Regarding your email as of Sunday, when you were writing about people unable to recover from semi-permeable intestines from nutritional improvements, I thought you'd tell us about a solution for repairment of the intestines. Will there be time to elaborate on recovery from leaky gut via supplements, as it seems to be mission impossible? Good question, Henrik, good question. You cannot take supplement, well, I should be kinder, I think. But your intestines are a tube. They start at the mouth, they go to the other end. It's one big long tube. It's the inside of the tube where the microbiome lives. The microbiome modulates function all over your body. The exhaust of the bacteria in your gut, the exhaust of the microbiome is called metabolites. 36% of all the small molecules in your bloodstream are the metabolites of the microbiome. 36% of everything in your blood comes from the exhaust of the bacteria in your gut. Why? Because those metabolites in the bloodstream are the messengers carrying the message from the dominant bacteria in your gut to your whole body. Dr. Michael Gershon at Princeton in 1999 wrote the book, The Second Brain. And back then he told us for every one message from the brain telling the gut what to do, there are 9 messages from the gut telling the brain what to do. The brain is controlled by the gut. The heart is controlled by the gut. The kidneys are controlled by the gut. The liver is controlled by the gut. It has its hands on the steering wheel. It's called modulating. And you just turn your steering wheel 5 degrees and 50 yards down the road, the car's off the road. When your gut is out of balance just a little bit, the messengers from that bacteria in the gut get in the bloodstream. The message going to your brain is off just a little bit. You get depression. You get anxiety because the hormones in your brain are not balanced because the messengers from the bacteria in the gut told your brain how many hormones to make. They're called neurotransmitters. So it is the environment inside the tube from your mouth to the other end. That environment is the most critical thing that you can do to be healthy. So if you have leaky gut, right now, you do the test, the Wheat Zoomer tells you if you have a leaky gut or not. If you have leaky gut right now, that means, by definition, the environment inside the tube is inflamed, causing the leaky gut. Well, what does that mean? It means that over the years, the food you've eaten, the environment you've put down there has created this inflammatory environment. Well, do you think taking glutamine is going to heal that inflammatory environment? No. It's going to help short term to heal the gut. It does help, But as soon as you stop glutamine, it all comes back because the environment's inflamed. Vitamin D, turmeric, curcumin, fish oils, all of these great things, they really do help. The genes that are turned on to heal the gut by vitamin D are different than the genes that are turned on by glutamine. The genes that are turned on by fish oils to heal the gut are different than the genes turned on by turmeric. That's why I put together the gluten sensitivity packs. We'll put the link in here for you for the gluten sensitivity packs. It's 22 different nutrients that all are focused on creating a healing environment in the gut. 22. And nobody's going to open 22 bottles. So the pack has 6 pills that contain 22 different nutrients. Mrs. Patient, can you take 1 pack a day to help heal your gut? Yeah, good, good. All right, so here's the diet that you're going to follow. And you take 1 pack a day of this. And you take colostrum. But that's all you have to do. And it should help to heal your gut pretty quickly. But to your question, Henrik, there will never be a product that's going to heal the gut unless you change the microbiome, because it's an inflammatory microbiome by definition that causes the leaky gut. You've got to get rid of the inflammatory microbiome. You have to transition that microbiome into a healthy, diverse microbiome. That's why we talk about so much in our clinical services with all of our clients and our patients about rebuilding the gut and how important it is. And it's going to take 6 months to 2 years. How to heal the damage by gluten beyond probiotics if one has histamine intolerance and not able to tolerate the high histamine foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, etc. Good question, Kim. What I just went through, we'll do that. You may have to avoid the high histamine foods, although you take a little baby spoon and put it in the sauerkraut and get a little bit of juice, and put that little bit of juice in your serving of mashed potatoes. Mix it up in there so you can't taste a thing. If you don't taste it, you reduce the likelihood of the histamine reaction because your taste buds go right up to the brain and say, uh-oh, I need protection here. So minor amounts, teeny little amounts. Next week, teeny little amounts. Next week, a little bit more. Next week, a little bit more. Next week, a little bit more. 3 months from now, maybe you're having a little bit of sauerkraut in your mashed potatoes or your sweet potatoes, whatever. You know, hide the flavor. And that's how you transition a microbiome from a histamine sensitive microbiome to a diverse, healthy microbiome. I'm on a gluten-free diet and also just tested high in gluten. I'd like to take Wheat Rescue, but it has given me diarrhea in the past. Is there a way for me to tolerate it? Oh, that's interesting. That's new to me. I've heard of that with E3 because of the bacteriophages going after the bad bacteria, but I hadn't heard that with Wheat Rescue. So is there a way to tolerate it? Yes, take it in the middle of a meal instead of before the meal. And let's see if it's in the midst of all that food, if it still activates that response. Not sure, but that's a first place to start. If I'm on a gluten-free diet and have an accidental exposure, how long might the effects last? 3 to 4 months. No, it's 3 to 4 months because of the lifespan of the antibodies that are produced. What impact might this product have to thwart such accidental exposures? You break down the gluten before it comes out of the stomach into the small intestine so you don't activate the inflammatory response at all. Since there is a controversy about probiotics, is this SIBO friendly? Thank you. Yes, yes it is. So Dr. Tom, you're saying if we take this particular Wheat Rescue, we don't have to take enzymes and probiotics separately. No, I didn't say that. It depends on what you're taking enzymes for. This is not to replace digestive enzymes. The Wheat Rescue will have some pancreatic and hydrochloric acid in it, but it's not to replace digestive enzymes. You can try, if you're currently taking digestive enzymes and they're helpful for you, I might start with both the Wheat Rescue and the digestive enzyme for a couple of weeks, and then try not taking the digestive enzyme and see if you still have that same benefit that you were getting from the digestive enzyme. But the purpose here is not to be a digestive enzyme. The purpose here is to break down any exposures to wheat. That's the primary purpose. This sounds like one has to take 3 tablets daily for the rest of one's life if one is celiac diagnosed. Is that correct? One has to take a tablet with each meal if you're not positive it's squeaky clean gluten-free. So you buy something that says gluten-free on it, you'll never be positive. But if you're making a salad at home and you're making your salad dressing out of vinegar and oil, and the vinegar is gluten-free, and you're having a nice big salad with some sauteed chicken that you sauteed in butter with some spices that you checked and they're gluten-free, there's no need to take a Wheat Rescue. Only when you can't be positive that you've got complete control over your food sources, when you can't be positive, that's when you take it. Would you recommend a 24 to 48 hour fast to kickstart the gut healing process if you have leaky gut digestive symptoms? No, not necessarily. I think fasting mimicking diets, timed food exposure is a great idea. We do that. Our breakfasts are usually somewhere between 10 and noon. We have coffee in the morning. Then we don't have anything else. If we're hungry, we'll eat a little earlier. But the idea of eating all your food within 8 hours or less is there are too many studies to show the benefit of that. And that's one of the things I talk to when I do a consultation with patients. I only consult really bad patients, who've been everywhere and done everything. And we have our MA, what's the name of our program? MA will put the link in here to the program.
Program, Dr. Tom?
Where I do a consult to them.
Oh, the Inner Circle.
Inner Circle, thank you.
Yeah, that's the program.
Yeah, so MA,
and they're worth it.
Yeah, she'll talk about that when we're done here, which is pretty soon. My brain's starting to go. What are the most effective treatments you have found for healing leaky gut? Everything I've talked about here. Identifying the foods you're sensitive to, rebuilding a healthy microbiome, taking the GS support packs, and making sure you don't get contamination. What foods have gluten in them? That's $1 million question. Celiac.com is a good source. It's a really great website for patients who want to know more about hidden exposures to wheat and all that. They've been around since the late 1990s on this website, celiac.com. They've got hundreds of articles there, and you'll be surprised. Vitamins that have gluten in them, drugs that have gluten in them, pharmaceuticals, list goes on and on. What do you recommend in general for a healthy microbiome? That's an hour-long talk. Does gluten intolerance cause leaky gut, and can it heal over time? Really good question, Elaine. Any wheat that comes out of the stomach does 2 things, and this happens in every human. Maureen Leonard, a famous gastroenterologist at Harvard, published this in the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2017. All humans who consume gluten get leaky gut, and they get inflammation in the gut when they consume. She said this process takes place in all humans who consume gluten. So gluten by itself, and Professor Fasano, Alessio Fasano, the guru, he says the 2 most powerful triggers to cause leaky gut are lipopolysaccharides, bad bacteria, small amounts of bad bacteria, and gluten. Those are the 2 most powerful triggers for leaky gut. And Professor Fasano is the head of the Department of Mucosal Immunology. That means the lining of your gut, the lining of your lungs. He's the chair of that department. And his paper that came out last year, he says the two most powerful triggers for leaky gut is small amounts of bacteria, LPS, and gluten. And Professor Leonard says this happens in all humans who consume wheat. People don't like to hear this because that means you and your spouse and your kids. So should everybody give up wheat? I never say that because I sound like a nutcase. But everyone should be tested to see if they have a sensitivity to wheat. And the most comprehensive test out there is the wheat zoomer. Do all grains have the inflammatory gluten proteins or just wheat, barley, and rye? It's wheat, barley, and rye and the contamination in other grains. Hi, Dr. Tom, I was a participant in your case study. Oh, thank you. And I read your book, Autoimmune Fix. Thank you. I'm so much healthier now. Way to go, Louie, H. Louie. Thank you. I still have some food sensitivity to hopefully calm down. Question, does either supplement break down dairy? Yes, they both do. The top 8 food allergens, they both break down dairy. Way to go, Louie. Way to go. How to order when eating out. You look them in the eye and say, please tell the chef, I am gluten sensitive. And you see how they respond. And if you're not comfortable with the response, you ask the chef to come out. And you talk to them. We have the chef come out regularly. You know, some friends took us out on Sunday to this place. It's like a botanical gardens, and they have a small restaurant with 12 tables, and it's a fixed course meal, you know, just whatever they're making. And so I said, can you have the chef come out, please? And the guy looked at me and said, chef, we're all gluten-free. To say, oh, no problem, sir. And we can do this and this and I said, onion rings? You make onion rings that are gluten-free? Yes, sir. They're with rice flour. Oh, I love you. I haven't had onion rings in years. Bring them on. So he brought me a plate of onion rings, and you know, we all got 2 on our dish, but he brought me a plate. I, of course, passed them around with our friends, but we all took a Wheat Rescue beforehand, and we felt safe, right? So how to order when eating out. It's really difficult. You have to look them in the eye, and you take your supplements. I find food, supplement, prescription, and healthcare information more confusing than helpful. Absolutely. Please describe how to identify credible sources that use science and research studies more than profit motives as a basis for opinions, conclusions, and recommendations. Really good question, Noah. Really good question. Here's how you do it. Get my 2 books, read them, or just open to any page, read any page, look at the study, look at my comments, and then see, there's the study. Then you go to the back and there's the study, the Journal of the American Medical Association. Open it to another page, read the comments, there's the study. There's a study in British Medical Journal. That's how you know when they will put down where the science comes from and they're not giving you their opinion. That's how you know. Really good question, Nova. If I were to eat knowingly about 2 tablespoons wheat-free oats, would 2 caps E3 or this new product be, no, just one. One is enough. Yes, it's enough to protect you. I do know I shouldn't, but sometimes I'd love to. Hey, there's nothing wrong with gluten-free oats, wheat-free oats. They may be contaminated, you know, but Marzi, she calls it porridge because she lived in Ireland for 10 years, right? We have porridge maybe twice a week. You know, and they're gluten-free oats, but we still take our Wheat Rescue beforehand. But there's nothing. And in mine, I put peanut butter and I put some fruit in there with it, mix it all up. You know, you make it fun. Please speak to Italian-made wheat products. Oh, I see what you mean. I was going to do a joke here. My wife and I lived in Italy for 1.5 years before we came here. And we love Italian gluten-free food, but it's contaminated like everything else. You know, 32% of it, it's all contaminated. Gluten-free wheat products. Some people say, I can go to Italy and I can eat the wheat and then it's fine, I don't have a problem. But if I eat the wheat here in the US, I have problems. The science tells us the vast majority of gut symptoms from eating wheat is not from gluten. It's from the FODMAPs, in wheat. FODMAPs are fermentable carbohydrates. They cause bloating and gas and constipation. And when you take the gluten proteins in wheat, trigger the immune response that goes after your brain, your heart, your lungs, your liver. But the gut symptoms are from the FODMAPs. The wheat in Italy is much lower in FODMAPs. So people go to Italy and they eat the pizza or they eat the pasta and it's delicious. And oh, I can eat this here. I'm fine. I don't have any bloating. And they go back home. They think they can eat it at home. They get bloating right away. So they think it's the wheat in Italy. It's safe for them. No, it's not. It's just lower in FODMAP, so you don't get the gut bloating, but you still get the gluten protein reaction, creating the antibodies to your brain, your heart, your thyroid, the lungs, the liver. And the only way you'll know is you do the test. You do the test, you got a problem, you follow the recommendations, you're completely compliant. 6 months to a year later, you redo the test, everything's clean. I'm going to Italy, doc. Can I eat the wheat? Well, no. But if you want to learn for yourself for the rest of your life, so you'll know, we just did the test, you're squeaky clean, good. You're going to Italy now, go ahead, eat the wheat over there. When you come back, we do the test again. And if the antibodies come back to your brain, Mrs. Smith, now you know you can't eat that. That's the only way you can tell. But the Italian wheat is because it's lower in FODMAPs. It's not lower in gluten. You still get the protein response from gluten. Would love to get my nephew on Wheat Rescue or an E3. He has Crohn's. Can you take those with Crohn's? Yes, you can, of course. I don't eat any wheat or gluten, but still have high thyroid antibodies. Eat mainly fruit and vegetables. My gut's so upset. What should I do? Thank you. Work with our team. Good for you that you're gluten-free. And yeah, there's other triggers. There are so many things to learn about where your autoimmune condition comes from. It's environmental triggers. And, for example, bisphenol A, BPA, binds to your thyroid. And then your body makes antibodies to this new molecule. It's called a neoepitope, thyroid BPA. You make antibodies to that to kill that. And the result is you kill the thyroid part of that neoepitope. Then you make more antibodies because you've got dead thyroid cells sitting around. You make more antibodies to get rid of the dead thyroid cells. And BPA is a contributor. There are many causes, not just gluten, but gluten's a primary one. What you told me here tells us that you've got other triggers. If your kid only has DQ2 gene, is that enough for them to avoid gluten? Okay, so the DQ2 gene, and if he's only got that means he's homozygous. He's got one from his mother, one from his father, DQ2, high risk of developing celiac disease. Yes, is that enough? Well, the way you know is you do the test, you do the wheat zoomer. And if he's got elevated antibodies to wheat, that's it, he's done. If he doesn't have elevated antibodies to wheat, he's not crossed the line of tolerance yet. And it really is only yet. But for a DQ2 homozygous, I would do the test every year. I would keep wheat to a minimum so you're not pushing that system. I would do my best to rebuild his microbiome for a healthy, diverse, learn everything you can. It's all in my books. And I would reduce his exposure to wheat as much as possible, but test him every year because he will cross the line of tolerance at some point. I've had autoimmune issues for years. I've been given prescriptions, immunosuppressant drugs. I assume this is only treating the symptoms, not the causes. What do you say? High five to you. You've got it. That's right. And sometimes you need to take the meds to function, but they're not designed to reduce your autoimmune condition. They're designed to help you live with your autoimmune condition. Nothing wrong with that, but it's a different purpose. Work with our team. You'll learn, read my books and work with our team. You'll learn so much. Do you feel that NAET, Narumbad's allergy elimination treatment, is a good treatment to help with gluten intolerance? Doug, the problem is that NAET practitioners, after you go through your 10 sessions, they say, okay, it's okay to eat wheat now. And that is utter nonsense. And I have gone around and around with the principles of NAET. NAET is a great technique. It works very well for some people, not everyone, but for some people, works really well to reduce the symptoms of their allergies. Great. But I'm driving my car down the road. The hot light comes on the dashboard. Oh my, oh, whoa, what's that? I pull over, turn the car off. I get down on the floor, get the wire that goes to the hot light. I cut the wire, start the car. Oh, good, the hot light's not on anymore, and drive away thinking everything's okay. Really? Just because you don't have the symptoms anymore does not mean you don't have the autoimmune damage continuing. That the only way you know is test. Don't guess. Test. Do I have an autoimmune condition going on? Yes. All right, I'm going to do Narumbad allergy elimination technique. Oh, good, I feel so much better. Am I okay to eat wheat now? I don't know. No, probably not, but you want to know? Do the test. Is the test negative? You no longer have any antibodies to wheat? Elevated antibodies? Okay. And I've said this so many times, if they would do the study, because they got the money, they've trained thousands of practitioners to do this technique. If they would do the study, test the people, those that are positive, do their techniques for them, and then wait a month for all the antibodies to die down, and then test them again and demonstrate that they no longer have elevated antibodies to their brain or their thyroid. If they would spend the money to do that test, I would sing their praises on every stage around the world. They won't spend the money. So the elimination of symptoms, and it's really a question because the elimination of symptoms does not mean elimination of the problem. Just like the Italian wheat, you don't get bloated. Well, it's the FODMAPs, it's not the proteins. Just like Narumbad. We don't know because nobody's done the tests afterwards. But I never will tell someone it's okay to eat wheat because you feel better, because your symptoms are gone. That's just historical thinking that doesn't make any sense in today's world of science. It makes no sense. Not that the technique makes no, technique's a good technique, but they should be following it up to test the patient because the technology now for testing is so accurate. These Zoomer tests are so very accurate. Mayo Clinic's written over, I've got 5 papers they've written on the accuracy of these tests. They call it a new era in laboratory medicine. Dr. Tom, thank you so much for getting this message out. I'm thankful I found you. Oh, thank you, Robin. With deep appreciation, thank you again. TPO's under 100. I'm looking for a holistic practitioner MD in Wisconsin. Can you help? If you go to ifm.org and look on Find a Practitioner, look for a certified practitioner in Wisconsin. You'll find, just make sure they're certified. I'm allergic to gluten and turmeric. Will I be allergic forever? Turmeric, no. Gluten, yes. That's the memory B cells that I was talking about. Last blood test, rheumatoid factor was down from 124 to 54. Way to go. But sugar was up from 99 to 111. So confusing. Well, you know, depends on what you're doing, Sue, and who your coach is that's working with you. But way to go. Here's a pearl for you on your sugar. Use the HOMA score, HOMA. You have to look it up. I don't have time to explain it now. But use the HOMA score as your monitor that your blood sugar regulation is getting better. Don't worry about the blood sugar numbers in this range. Look at the HOMA score. Dr. Tom, maybe sometime we can address that issue of protein versus vegans because I'm in an AIP group where we are on the elimination protocol and we can't get plenty of proteins from our veggies. I never knew our veggies had proteins in them. Amen. And we can get plenty of protein from our veggies. I never knew our veggies had proteins in them. Many of the people on the site are extremely healthy. They have excellent levels for everything on their blood work. Of course, it's just for 3 months or so until we start to introduce foods back in. But 12 servings of veggies a day will give us our protein. Kat, thanks so much for bringing this topic up. That's really great to hear, really great. My only question is, are they checking urine amino acids or blood amino acid levels? Other markers get much, much better on the AIP diet, much, much better. But are they also checking amino acid levels? If they are, and they're in the normal range, I'll sing the praises. I just don't know about that. Previously, I've had NAT to help with allergies. It does decrease the symptoms I experience. If NAT is helpful to alleviate gluten. I've already answered that. We quit eating gluten and we no longer have skin breakouts or scaly skin. Way to go, Emiko, way to go. What about neurological celiac that acts like MS? Is it reversible? Yes, it is. I've heard protein deficiencies are extremely rare. Not at all, very common. Almost unheard of in the West. Well, protein deficiencies where you die are rare. Yes, very rare. But protein deficiencies and insufficiencies where your function is compromised are really common. It's startling when people are diagnosed with different diseases. If you look at their amino acid levels, how many of them are depleted, meaning their digestive system is not getting the proteins into the bloodstream if they're even eating them. Is there a list of gluten-free foods you recommend? Okay, we've done that one, right? What percentage of people who take the wheat Zoomer test result in a recommendation to go gluten and wheat free? That's a really good question. It's startling. It's somewhere over 90% on a first test. Here's the only condition. You have to have an adequately functioning immune system. Meaning if your immune system's worn out, it's been beaten up, or you're on immune suppressant drugs, the test might not be accurate. So how do you know? You have to do a total IgA, IgG, IgM, total immunoglobulin levels. And as long as you have adequate amounts of total immunoglobulins, antibodies to protect you, as long as your totals are good, this test is right on the money every time, according to Mayo Clinic, 97 to 99%. And how many of these people come back positive? More than 9 out of 10. It's startling because wheat, this process occurs in all humans who consume gluten. You get transient intestinal permeability and increased inflammation. For the geeks out there, it's NF-kappa B gets activated. The major amplifier of inflammation is activated. This process takes place in all humans who consume gluten. So how many people do you think have a problem with gluten? Let's see. What do you think about the supplement DIM? Diindomethane is a great supplement. It helps your body metabolize hormones in a healthier way. Great supplement. How many grams of sugar a day are okay? Depends on the individual and what your HOMA score is. I cut out sugar, but miss an occasional sweet and don't add sugar to any foods. Good for you, Kim. Try fruits. Try blueberries. I really like the frozen blueberries from Whole Foods. I think it's Stedman's. I think that's their name, but they're big and they're sweet. And I miss them. I would have a cup maybe 3-4 times a week as a snack at night. Just a couple of blueberries. I eat with my fingers, get a little blue on my fingers, wash it before I go to bed. But I loved it. It was really great. I like them a lot, and it satisfies my sugar craving. Let's see. Can you suggest grass-fed and finished meat companies? Vital Choice is, yeah. Barbara, Vital Choice and the Butcher Box. And Mary Agnes is putting the links in here for both of them. Why are GMO used? Jeffrey Smith, the Institute for Responsible Technology, is the go-to guy on that, and he's got books on it and movies on it. But they're used because they're chemicals, and they make billions of dollars selling these chemicals. And they breed the plants that are dependent on these chemicals. And the plants don't produce seeds anymore, so the farmers can't collect the seeds to plant for next year. They have to buy new seeds every year because of these GMO plants. And the companies are suing the farmers who are using regular seeds and not GMO seeds because they say, well, the wind is blowing the regular seed into our field, contaminating the GMO fields, which is the exact opposite of what we should be saying. Wait a minute, the natural food should be growing. It's these poison dependent foods that we should get out of there. It's just unbelievable what politics has done here. Okay, how many more are there? Okay, we have a few more. Can you please speak to nightshades and lectins? Yes, the lectin zoomer, and Mary Agnes will put the link in here to the lectin zoomer, just like the wheat zoomer. It's a very, very accurate test. If you're positive on lectin zoomers, you can eat those lectins. And you're most likely sensitive to most lectins. Lectins are real nasty. The book, The Plant Paradox, really brought a lot of information about lectins to the world. But he says nobody should eat lectins, and I disagree. No one should eat lectins if your immune system says you have a problem with lectins. And so you do the lectin zoomer test and you find out. Dr. Robert Lustig was on Dr. Perlmutter's podcast and said it is not gluten but wheat. Says he can drink beer because it's not wheat but rye. This confuses him. Well, you know, people have opinions. Show me the science. Actually, show me his wheat zoomer. Show me his wheat zoomer. Because it's not just the glutens. It's the other components of wheat that trigger the immune reaction also. We already did the rice question. Is wheat from decades ago healthier than present day wheat? Good question. And absolutely not. I'm writing a paper on that right now. The science is really clear, not Emmett, Emmer, not Spelt, whatever the other one is, I'm not remembering right now. Nope, their proteins, once you've crossed the line of tolerance and general gluten is active for the rest of your life, you can't have the heritage brands either, the ancient varieties. They activate the immune response. For those of us trying to reduce wheat antibodies, is it a good rule of thumb to avoid corn also? Did not test corn. With celiacs, 50% of celiacs have elevated antibodies to corn, and if they eat corn, they get more wheat antibodies. That's called cross-reactivity. So it's 50% with celiacs. That's what the science says. So it's a good idea to test, do the corn zoomer to find out. Is it better to get prescription pancreatic enzymes than a nutritional brand of lipases? It's really about the dosing and how your pancreas is functioning and how much help do you need. I like to prime the pump a little bit. If people have zero pancreatic enzyme function, you need stronger amounts of enzymes. So some people would do better with those. What are your thoughts on homemade kefir from organic soybeans? Absolutely not. I wouldn't do it. There's too much evidence now about soy and its hormone effects in the body. You have a little soy once in a while, it's not going to kill you, but you have something regularly, then it builds up. The negative effect builds up. But I'd make your kefir with coconut. Our friend Donna Gates has a really great recipe for coconut kefir. Just look her up on Google, or maybe Mary Agnes can put a link in here for you. Great recipe for coconut kefir. Where do we find the link for the supplement packets that are supposed to help heal leaky gut? That's the GS support packs. Mary Agnes will put the link in here. Is wheat in Europe more gluten-free than our GMO wheat in the US? No, it's more FODMAP-free. Is it possible to heal from a small hiatal hernia without surgery? Yes, yeah, but that's a kinesiology technique. That's not something that many doctors know about. I'd look for a board-certified applied kinesiologist on that one. And I think the website would be ICAK.org, International College of Applied Kinesiology. And I would look for a board-certified kinesiologist. And it's a common technique. I did it with a number of people over the years. And that was the last question. 82 questions, all right, 2 hours. Okay, well, listen, everyone, it's really great. Mary Agnes has got some information for you. I thank you for being here. Thank you for your questions, really great questions. I really enjoyed doing this, love you guys, and now I'm gonna go have dinner. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you with our Facebook Live next week, same time, same place. So MA, I'm going to sign off now.
Thank you, Dr. Tom. You are such a rock star. 2 solid hours of serving your community. Yay!
Thank you.
Tons of thank yous coming in, by the way. So to all of you, hi, I'm Dr. Tom's marketing director. Sorry, this is what I look like. I didn't expect to be on camera, but we had this idea that I submitted with the questions to Dr. Tom. What if we put together a course that would continue this conversation? Maybe a 2-part course where Dr. Tom could answer more questions, continue this conversation. We could take this recording plus those 2 private deep dives. You could all be in the room with Dr. Tom on Zoom, and you know, maybe even include a little coupon for the Wheat Rescue. So it would be 2 classes with Dr. Tom privately behind a curtain in Zoom. You could have your camera on or off. They won't be broadcast on Facebook Live or any live ever. And we'll also take the transcriptions of those classes and we'll make them searchable by topic. So we've done this with a few transcripts of Dr. Tom's where we invest the time, forget about it, and we put all the topics at the top like a table of contents. They are clickable down into the transcript where that issue was covered, alphabetical and searchable. So it makes that asset very, very valuable to all of you. So I was texting Dr. Tom and our COO in the background saying, is this something we could do? You might have heard Dr. Tom randomly say, yes, MA, in the middle of the questions he was answering me. So no, I'm not going to do it for free, Mary. I'm so sorry. I mean, he did this for free, and I think that really gives a lot of people in our community a starting point. You know, if any of you are really in dire circumstances, do please write in and ask for a scholarship. You know, we try to really honor, I mean, especially at this time, but we won't make it expensive. I was thinking a $97, you know, just little sort of a bite, these 2 classes privately in Zoom. And, you know, sometimes there's so much work involved in creating this. That small fee really just covers Dr. Tom's team to do the work. For instance, that kind of an annotated transcript, like what Dr. Tom did today, if we were to take the transcript and annotate it, believe it or not, that's like a 15-hour project. So someone on our team does that times 2 more of those. So it just becomes labor intensive. Somebody has to run these things. So yeah, and also seriously, the books are really, really good. Yes, I want it to be reasonable. Dr. Tom's really focused on being accessible financially to his community. So where you'll see other people will do programs for, you know, $997. Dr. Tom very rarely does that. Even his inner circle, which is, you know, a few $1,000s, but it includes that many thousands of dollars worth of tests. So he tries to balance things out where, you know, he or his team, the clinical services team, and the tests are, you know, hopefully affordable. And if not, you know, these lifestyle changes are in his books. I think Anna was the one who said that. So could you sell us the ebook transcript later at a lower price than the live class? Yes. Yes, that's a very good answer, Mary. So we'll definitely do that. I'll speak with Anne and Dr. Tom, and we'll get that annotated transcript, you know, at a super low price, like $27. So somebody could just do that piece of it. And remember, this class from tonight is on Facebook. You can access it. I put the permanent link in the chat for you all. Remember, there's also Dr. Tom's Base Hits class. That's sort of like this, where we come in on different topics. Dr. Tom deep dives on those topics. But this little thing we're talking about is going to be strictly about gluten and how do you approach going gluten-free in your life. Maybe we'll also have some of Dr. Tom's gluten-free practitioners come in and answer questions like, you know, somebody was saying they've been gluten-free 10 years. Why would they even do the test? But, you know, what we know is that you're getting gluten through your shampoo, your lipstick, your skincare. So there's still a lot of gluten, you know, in, what's the word? I want to say integrating into our lives, but you know what I mean? Like it's a stealth sort of entry point. So that's it. I'm going to end the Facebook Live and I'm going to first let's end the Facebook Live. So thank you all of you for joining us there, and for those of you who joined on Zoom. The next layer of this, that deeper layer, is going to be privately on Zoom. It'll never go out live. So I'll get that out on our email list. If you aren't on Dr. Tom's email list, which sorry, laughter in my house. You can go to theDr.com/betrayal and just join Dr. Tom's Betrayal documentary series, and that'll put you on the email list. Warning, we mail every single day, which as Dr. Tom's marketing director, I weigh all the time. You know, is the list exhausted? But we just have transparent subject lines. What's that email talking about? We only want you to open things that affect you or your loved ones. But in a world where, you know, there are millions of great classes or products or collaborative events, you know, Dr. Tom gets probably dozens of offers every day and requests for him to share books from colleagues. You know, we choose these 300 and we share them with you. So, you know, check out those that are applicable and relevant to you. And it saves you from like 10,000 Google searches where is something even true, never mind relevant. So that's why we do what we do. Dr. Tom, you know, he's, you know, hand picking things that we're sharing with this community. And, you know, if we as team get it wrong, believe me, he's not happy. We work really carefully and closely to make sure that what we're putting out is something that he wants the community to know about. You know, for instance, he just did a summit on food sensitivities and food sensitivities and autoimmunity. And then he did another summit with Dr. Evan Hirsch on fatigue and autoimmunity. So he's also always working really hard to create content for you. So yeah, Dr. Google is not our friend, right? So I'm just going to stop the live stream. I'm going to talk to the friends who came on through Zoom for a quick second and just thank you everybody out there in the world who's a part of Dr. Tom's community. It's such a privilege to work for him.